Hello and welcome back to Fire Emblem Order of the Crimson Arm, 100% growth's low turn count playthrough. This will be the final chapter in the run. As it is a final map, this is Kill Boss. And the boss we have to defeat is immune to crits, has 24 speed, and has very high defense. Because we have to worry about taking care of the starting area, just that there's less RNs burned on enemy phase, we deploy a couple units that have not been deployed much at all, in order to take care of them. There's a new unit among our ranks. The go-to of this hack is a nomad trooper. Yeah, his name is Adin. Or at least that's how I'm going to pronounce it. This is one other map where training a thief could potentially save a turn, however, I don't think it could. It would just make things slightly easier. Auden joins our ranks with a silver bow, wind sword, and silver sword. He's just barely able to double the final boss using the Failnot. To help us with their thinning out of the beginning area, we deployed Arlen and Andrew. We would have just found someone else if we trained Andrew for killing the final boss instead of Boleslav. Which would have been entirely possible, by the way, because we do have access to him for Chapter 20X, and all of Chapter 21. He would just need a few stat boosters to make it possible. The boss is in the middle of the map, but the map is rather large. And there are a couple enemies in the way, so we have Lonnie drop E-Lane to the left here. Boleslav is being carried by Sven. Wayland is using his personal weapon here of Carmine, and he'll be using it for a majority of the map, aside from when he goes up against Jormund. Normand, however his name is actually pronounced. I apologize, my nose is slightly stuffy, but I wanted to finish this run up. Camille was using Nosferatu just in case she got hit. She should have just been using Flux. This enemy phase is pretty long. Obviously. Auden is at least helpful for clearing out the starting area. Every time she procs Silencer, Arlen gets an experience bonus. She's not actually a bad unit, I just never ended up using her. Wayland is carrying Celia. It turns out that neither the Axe Weaver nor the Brave Axe were actually needed for Sven. I should have just kept him with the Vulnerary and given him an elixir. But Tanya could make up for the lack of healing by just using Mend. We need to physic up Lonnie, because we're going to start baiting over Yormund. And Yormund hits really hard. I believe Clara is equipped with her personal weapon to let her fully heal her up. It's just easier to have these Falconites out of the way. You would have preferred to use an Axe Reaver to make Yormund have lower hit, but it doesn't really matter. We do need Rudolph to die one way or another, and Elaine getting a crit is just the easiest way to set it up. This is the halberdier who fled back in Chapter 18, and who was on screen in Chapter 23 that we never ended up fighting. He would need to die eventually so that we can safely drop Celia there. I decided to let the boss combos with the people who fight Yormund play out. This is another instance of, oops, Lonnie should have had Flux. Sven's survival here is a little suspect, but for whatever reason that Berserker chooses to go for Katarina instead of him. Lonnie's survival is also a little suspect, but she ends up being fine. Most of the enemy phases on this map are rather long, just a warning. That Swordmaster obviously is a wind sword. That silence has to be avoided, but the odds of it connecting are really low, because Elaine has Captorez. You might have thought that Algemus's training would have let him fight the final boss, but no, with his personal weapon, he would need a body ring to double him, and he would only deal 9 damage per hit, which isn't good enough. This is me just pulling the Flux Tone on the Convoy. The amount of uses doesn't matter. It was a light burn, not a wind sword, my bad. Andrew was just deployed as a flunky because he has the crit boost. We could have used someone like Danica as well, if we had actually trained her. I could have pulled a killing edge of the convoy and used that for the kill, but Tanya was right there. We use Mend here instead of Physic, because, well, Lonnie does need healing. Sven would not be able to be healed by doing that. This is why we needed to pick up Fortify. Sven needs to be healed, and so does Lonnie. Lonnie's not brought to full HP, but that's okay. We need to bring Katarina over. Where she ends up going doesn't really matter, but we need her to be over here on the left. Negu could have also contributed. We give Boleslav Felna, and we wait till it's done. That is a 2-range spot for Jormund, so Boleslav will be able to actually fight him. Breaking the Flex Tome here kinda sucks. But, oof, whatever. This game has an issue with apostrophes in the text. The main reason why Boleslav using Felnot to double is better than Alchemist using it to double is that we don't need to give Boleslav a body ring, for one, and for two, he is better hit. The issue with Boleslav being up front is that he has to face tank all of his enemies, but it ends up working out. That's the one enemy Katarina has to take a hit from. And even then, the odds of it connecting aren't even that high. We actually could afford to be hit by that silent stat. It would have been annoying, but actually no, we couldn't have. I thought Clara would need to be able to restore, but we don't have a restore staff. We start hitting Jormund with other units. Wayland is able to deal a decent chunk, but he cannot double him even with his personal weapon. If his speed cap was 1 higher, or if his personal weapon was 1 point stronger, had guaranteed him 1 extra point of speed, we'd give him that instead. He'd deal 30 damage when he doubled. It would have actually been better to have Wayland be danced, because, spoiler alert, we're doing that with Boleslav. Well, no, Boleslav actually deals more damage, my bad. If we were using Clara, would have been, or Celia, would have been better to dance Wayland, but it doesn't matter. Now, it turns out I actually could have gotten this kill to Celia if I really wanted. I just didn't end up doing so. I had 2 flying units to spare, so I could have killed that Wyvern Rider that you see now above Boleslav, and then I could have rescued him with someone else, and Celia could have picked up the kill. Instead, there are 2 spaces left to attack Jormund from. I wasn't quite sure what I needed to do, but Sven with a Silver Axe hits him just hard enough. It is here where I will turn off the movie file. It's not because there's an error in it, but just because I wanted to actually show you what I meant, without just having to say it. I had 2 flyers left here. If I hadn't moved Celia, I could have used Lonnie to rescue Boleslav, and then Celia could have taken Felnot and gotten the kill. But, as it stands, there's no one more well-suited for this task than the unit who's carried us through all of this playthrough. August also could have gotten the kill, but she never hit C-rank lances, so her accuracy is kinda middling. She actually would have whiffed if I tried to get it with her. Anyway, with Lonnie giving the final blow, that is the end of the playthrough. We've defeated Jormund, and we've saved the continent. With someone who looks suspiciously like Alir. Talking about Jormund's son and setting up for a sequel that, as far as I'm aware, never came. we can safely say that Fire Emblem Order of the Crimson Arm 100% Croats has been cleared. I don't actually have the turn count memorized off the top of my head. Because I skipped that scene, you'll actually get to see it faster. But yeah, that's the playthrough. What remains of this video will be the Q&A, and a couple of messages of thanks. Some chapters are a little weird, but 143 turns is the final turn count. Unlike last time, I can actually give you a unit records. I know who fought the most battles and who won the most battles. So I'll start off with that, before I move on to the questions that I was asked. When it comes to the most wins, the top 5 were as follows. Lonnie was first with 90, Sven was second with 79, Camille was third with 66, Algemus was fourth with 62, and Wayland was fifth with 59. When it comes to the number of battles, Lonnie had 175 and came in first, Sven had 130 and came in second, Wayland had 107 and came in third, Nigu had 101 and came in fourth, and Alchemist had an even 100. Now, I'll move on to the thank yous. There aren't that many people that I would wish to thank compared to the last run, but there are a few. I would like to thank my friend LG for keeping me company sometimes when I was discussing strategies or just talking about the game. I would like to thank Family Player 1, the person who originally did the 0% growth playthrough of this game. It was never finished, it stopped after chapter 15, and I cannot blame him for that. But if in any weird case you are watching this and feel like you would wish to continue, I would greatly appreciate seeing the rest of that run played out. It would not be easy, but it would be nice to see. I would also like to thank Toffee. He's an LTCer that has LTC'd plenty of ROM hacks, usually in 100% growths, and by usually I mean always in 100% growths. He inspired me to get back into doing LTC content because I realized that there actually is a market for LTCs of ROM hacks. Also, no, I did not mute VBA, there's just no credits music because I skipped the cutscene. So yes, I would like to thank Toffee and Family Player 1. Both of you gave me the inspiration I needed to do this playthrough, and if for any weird chance either of you two is watching, again, thank you. Now on to the questions. There weren't that many asked, but I did set aside a few baseline questions. Some of the questions that were asked by a couple of people, but the one that is currently showing up on my notifications for Darwin Billazon was, where did you download that ROM hack? I will leave a pinned comment on this video, hopefully by the time it's uploaded, but if not, after it's been uploaded, that contains a link to a Google Drive with a 100% growth UPS patch for this hack. In order to play it, you would need to apply it to a ROM of FE7. An English ROM. I'll not be telling you where to get that, just know that's what you need. Dude asked on my community post, what's the thing that made me start playing Fire Emblem in the first place? I've told this story a couple of times, but my first Fire Emblem game was Fire Emblem 6, hard mode. I was playing it at a friend's house at one point when I was like 8. And that got me started in Fire Emblem. I didn't really pick it up fully until the pandemic hit, back in 2020. And that's when I got fully invested in the community. I'd played 3 houses before that, but during the pandemic is when I beat most of the Fire Emblem games in the series. The only games I'd beaten up to that point were the GBA ones. Lumen Gaming asked, what made me want to do YouTube as a whole? Do I find it fun? Yes and no. On one hand, it is actually nice to be able to share what I've actually been working on with a larger amount of people, but on the other hand, it's kinda scary because I'm not used to making my voice public, despite the streams that I've appeared on. I mainly started doing YouTube because I did the DLP 0% growth run and wanted to share it in a way that wasn't like a Reddit post or something. That run could be improved, and so could this one, and I'll get to that, but yeah. I was asked on the prologue for this, what's the name of the ROM hack? I'd say it in the beginning of every episode, but in case I say it too fast, this is Fire Emblem Order of the Crimson Arm. And that's all the questions that were left in comments. One comment left was, you know, this is an FE7 hack because money doesn't matter, and that just made me smile when I read it. Yeah, onto the questions that I set aside for myself. What unit did the most for this run that I didn't expect them to do? And that's kind of a hard question to answer because every unit that I trained, I expected them to do something. But the unit who did more than I expected out of the trained units was Negu. I knew that she would be helpful, but I thought that because I needed an extra 8-move filler unit for chapter 19, and I just chose Negu over Gerwolf because I liked her sprite more. But as it turns out, she was actually a fully capable combat unit after chapter 15X, because she went from being able to double things but not kill them, to not being able to double and having to be fed kills. But then when she started being able to double, she was able to start killing things, and then once her weapon ranks got up, she was able to perform really well. Shout out to her getting her own promotion item in chapter 15X by one-running a sniper with the heavy spear. That was probably my favorite part of that clear, actually, because she was just barely able to do it with all the experience she had gathered. Another question is, what am I planning on doing next? And that's something I don't know. I mentioned in a video a while back that I was planning on running video editing classes, maybe streaming. Just yesterday when I'm recording this and when it's being uploaded, I was streaming with a friend of mine. We were streaming Stardew Valley, and if you follow my Twitter, or I might make a community post next time I stream, you might be able to catch us live. It's a much more vulgar and laid back thing because we're not really trying to record anything. Yeah. I don't really have any plans for a future project. There may be a few bonus videos coming out for this. I might make a version 2 of some chapters where I train other units just to show that they can be trained. But that would require me replaying the entire game, and I'm not sure I really want to do that yet. At some point, though, I will make a version 2, and it might be able to save some turns. Or show an alternative route for it. And now is the question that some of you have probably been waiting for. Are there any turn saves? And I know for a fact that there is one possible turn save, but I do not know if it is mutually exclusive with the turn I saved. Chapter 4 could be cleared in one turn faster. It could be cleared in the turn map where we get Sven. It could be cleared in 2 turns if you rig a crit against the Steelax fighter and avoid every attack that comes Sven's way during enemy phase, and connect a hand axe with the boss. The odds of it happening are very low. So in 3-turning that map, we pick up a couple of useful items, including the Steelax. We pick up experience on other units. Also in 3-turning that map, we get Camille an extra level that she wouldn't have had otherwise. I might barely have been able to squeeze it out of her in the early game, but she needs every single point of magic and speed she has at that point to get 2 chances at one-shotting the boss of Chapter 5. You might have been able to use another unit to do that. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that Camille's experience guaranteed her to be able to do that. But Chapter 4 could be cleared in 2 turns by just rigging a crit with Vlad against the boss. And that is absolutely a turn save that I could have gone for, but just like within Chapter 4, unlike in Chapter 4, that was just due to reliability concerns. I could have cleared it in 3 turns and gotten more sword experience and normal experience on Wayland, plus I got both the energy ring and the master seal, which I do value pretty highly. believe you can also save one turn in Chapter 7X, although I'm not actually sure about that. Chapter 15X, you could possibly save one more turn. But again, I'm not sure. You would have to do everything one turn faster, which you might barely be able to do. You can see Arlen is the only unit who has a 100% win to battle to win ratio. But yeah, you might barely be able to get an extra turn save in Chapter 15. But most of the maps I hit what I believe is the turn floor without glitching. And I'm pretty proud of that. Excuse me. I don't really have much left to say, so this is probably the last you'll hear from me for a while. Until I upload the alternative route to this, but that'll take a while because I'll have to replay every single chapter of this game in order to find the alternative routes, with a couple exceptions like chapters 1 to the exceptions of chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those will all stay the same because I had to come up with different experience routing compared to Family Player 1. But yeah, that's really all there is left to say. So if you've watched this entire playthrough, and if you've still been watching this part if you've been watching up to this part in the video, thank you for watching. Seriously, it means a lot. This is a playthrough that I knew would get finished, because I recorded the entire thing before I published a single video. It just came down to when would it be finished, and despite all the recording delays that have happened, I finished it, so I'm pretty proud of that. So yeah, look out for a video from me. I don't know what topic it'll be on. It might be LTC Route 2 for this. I don't know. I don't know what my next video will be. But keep looking out for it. There'll be one someday. Yet again, thank you for watching. I'll see you around.